Oh my God, y'all, look at this. This is a post oak slab, and it came out of a figured piece of wood. It was this little log that I sawed out. I don't know if I made a video about it or not, but it had 3 or 4 different major crotches in this little short piece of log, and that's why I slabbed it out the way I did, because it just has so much character. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So this is actually for a customer project, which is it almost seems counterintuitive, because he's going to bolt these down to the front of a small barbecue pit. But man, if we can get it, if he can get it, you know, sealed with a clear varnish, man, I wouldn't stain it or anything. I'd just put a clear varnish on it and just really make all that grain character pop. Golly, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Post oak, people. They tell you it's good for nothing. Post oak. Look at that. Even got a little bit of spalting there, which one of these is going to get cut off as a board, and then the other one will be live edge, so that ultimately it'll look like a, you know, just a big slab. That's what we had to do to make it work for the guy. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, I thought I'd just brag and show you guys what I just found inside this big white oak tree. And you're not going to believe this. Now, those of you that have a sawmill of sawing out lumber, you're going to believe this, okay? This is just a massive beam. and I can't believe this. The customer wants this beam 8 by 16 inches by 5 feet long. Now, this is 12 feet long, but I'm just going to cut it 5 foot lengths with a chainsaw. And he said he's using it for a coffee table, which I'm like, I told my wife, I said, I hope this is a prank, and that, you know, it's like 2 buddies and they're going to build this coffee table in another guy's apartment, because it's going to be so god-awful heavy that they won't ever be able to get it out. But I have no idea how much this beam weighs. I know that the log, as a whole log, when I curled the bucket back to pick it up, the back end of the tractor was just floating, and that's with the disc on. Now, the disc isn't that heavy, but this sucker's heavy. It was well over 1,000 pounds in the log. I know that. Probably closer to 2,000 if I had to guess. I've got some offcuts, pieces off the side that I'm still going to cut out for boards. I got a couple. The beam is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It took me almost 5 hours to saw it out. What was that clicking? Did I forget to turn the tractor off? 5 hours? I don't know. Yeah, it's like 1:30 now. I took a lunch break. Oh, it's a good thing I can hear that thing. I'll sit there and burn up the fuel pump. Anyway, yeah, it took me, I don't know, we'll say 4 hours. 4 hours to cut out, which is much longer than I expected, but because it's just so dadgum big, everything about it just got slowed down on having to roll the log. Even as a beam like this, I can't handle it by myself. I can't tip it up by myself. I could maybe stand it up with the cant hook, but I was trying to avoid using the cant hook on it because I don't want to gouge it. This is going to be, as far as I know, a finished surface, you know. But yeah, a couple offcuts, a couple slabs. I didn't use quite all those blades, but I did use, I think, 3 blades. And part of that's because I was changing them pretty proactively. I didn't want to have any warpy cuts. There's a couple 8-inch boards that I got out of it. But the coolest thing of all that I have to show you guys is this right here. Yeah, I hit metal. But y'all know what that is? That's a freaking bullet. Now, what are the odds that I hit this bullet? And it didn't totally junk the blade. I was able to finish the cut. And what's funny was I was cutting and I didn't hear the, you know, the zing that you normally get when you hit a nail or something. I just noticed right away my blade started, you know, skipping, zip, 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 zip. I was like, man, I hit something. And so like I said, I managed to finish the cut. And then I pulled it off and I was just like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding. You can still see the stamps where it was, maybe, come on, get the shine off of it. See the rings right there? You can still see the grooves where it was pressed into the shell. I mean, that thing is just freaking awesome. And there's no marks like coming into the wood. There's no damage here. So that tells me that that bullet was shot into that tree when the tree was much, much younger, because there's very little damage around it to say that, you know, it embedded into the tree and traveled through several inches of wood. That sucker hit the tree and stopped dead when the tree was very young, you know, and the tree is growing up around it. So really cool story. I don't know what the story is. I've got to count the rings on the end cut, just try to get an idea how old this tree was, and maybe try to see if I could guess, you know, when that bullet was shot. Not that it matters. I did have one of my friends ask, because I posted out on Facebook, and she said, oh, well, how high off the ground and which way was the bullet headed when it hit the tree? Well, this was the stump cut, and the stump was cut off about 4 feet high. So if we say the stump was at 4 feet, we come up another 6 to 7. This sucker was 7 feet off the ground, and it was still traveling up. It was still headed up. So, you know, I don't know if, we'll never know if somebody hung a target on the tree years ago, you know, or if it really was just a stray bullet that somebody was, which, I mean, that's a big bullet for somebody to be trying to shoot a bird or a squirrel even. That's a pretty big round. But, yeah. Anyway, that's cool. I'm super excited. It's I guess it's kind of dorky, but, you know, one, what are the odds of finding a bullet in the tree? And two, what are the odds of splitting it perfect like that to where it was basically, it's not truly cut in half, because this is pretty much the full profile of it. The offcut, the kerf took out most of it. The other slab's on the very bottom, and it just barely showed any sign of it at all. So it just showed like a little bit. When I took the first slab off and I looked at it first, it just looked like a nail. That's all I saw was one little bit of steel. And then I looked at what was still on the sawmill and saw that, the actual bullet. So anyway, super cool. You can't make that up. You know, I was texting a buddy about it, and he said, man, that's gonna be too expensive. You're probably gonna ask $1 million for the thing. So he said, I'll just have to go buy a bullet, cut it in half with a bandsaw, and then just embed it in a piece of wood just to make it. But you can't make that up. You can't duplicate that. Somebody has tried, I'm sure. Anyway, it has been an interesting day on the sawmill, cutting out this massive beam, and yeah, finding a bullet in a log. So I'm gonna try to just kind of do some resaw work, clean up what I've got left here. But first I gotta go unload this big bad boy and get it set up somewhere that I can cut it and get it ready to load when the client shows up.